Social media has been big for my life because I am younger, and we would have people come in and talk to all of us about social media and just making sure that your social media is a clean, professional place because colleges could have seen it. So I just think it's important to go through things that you might be tagged in. It's not always what you post. It could be something that someone else posted about you. And so you need to make sure that those things are also reflecting who you are as a person, because at the end of the day, that is what your personal brand is.
So I remember in my younger days with the social media stuff, when I would get a notification and said, "You've been tagged in a photo." I'm like, uh-oh, it's Monday. This past weekend. I better go and check and see what was on there. Personal branding is essential for today's working professional, especially in a public relations setting. But what all does a personal brand encompass? And how do you create and maintain a positive personal brand? Today, we'll discuss the importance of personal branding for aspiring PR pros and share insights and practical tips for crafting a strong personal brand and navigating social media etiquette. Plus, one of our own interns turned full-time employee reflects on her experiences and recommends essential tools and platforms for personal branding success. That's all ahead on today's episode of Shooting the Shift. Hello and welcome to Shooting the Shift, a venture here at Shiftology Communication where our team of communication professionals take time to reflect, share, and provide insights into what we do every day to help our clients reach more, convince more, and win more. I'm Dan Toland, Director of Virtual Experiences here at Shiftology, and we're happy you've tuned in to today's episode titled Personal Branding 101. All right, well, today I am joined by our account manager, Emily Bennett, and our content creator, Lydia Henry. And today we're talking about personal branding. You know, here at Shiftology, we do a lot of branding projects for folks, and a lot of people might think, hey, you're putting together a nice new logo for us, some claims, and making our brand look nice. But personal branding has become a much larger part of our surroundings, the way people operate now, especially since the advent of social media. So we decided today we're going to talk with Emily and Lydia a little bit about that. So I'll have both of you first introduce yourselves, your role at Shiftology, and then we'll dive right in.
My name is Emily Bennett, and I am an account manager here at Shiftology, specializing in the healthcare, education, and community aspects.
Lydia, would you like to introduce yourself?
My name is Lydia Henry. I started as an intern here a few summers ago, and then I graduated and came full-time here in January. So I've just been here for a few months, and I'm working as a content creator for Shiftology.
Before bringing Lydia on full-time, we got a real good taste of her personal brand, I guess, as an intern, which is a wonderful thing for internships to bring somebody on full-time and know what you're getting into when you hire them. But let's back that up a little bit. Emily, just what do we mean when we say personal brand? What is it a personal brand, and why is it so important for aspiring public relations professionals to develop that personal brand?
Personal brand or company brand, there's so much more that meets the eye. And I think a lot of young professionals, college students don't realize that those things start so early on. I mean, even, when you're talking about high school students too, and especially in this day and age of social media, hiring managers can go back a long time ago and find things online. Perhaps things you might not want associated with your personal brand.
And it's funny you mentioned that because I've been around a while now. And back when I was in high school, you didn't think about any of that. Even when I was in college, I mean, we were just starting to get cell phones that you could barely text on. Facebook wasn't a thing when I was in college. So I'm really glad personal branding really wasn't a big thing back then, because I don't know if I'd be sitting here working as a professional nowadays, given the things that happened in high school and college. But it's a big thing now. What type of things should people be thinking about, particularly young folks coming of age to get into the workplace, looking for internships, jobs, stuff like that? What type of blunders do we need to make sure maybe are cleaned up, or what have you seen out there that's not great for your personal brand?
Yeah, I think blunders can really vary across the spectrum here. I mean, some of my favorite examples are celebrities using X, or formerly Twitter. Whenever I'm giving a presentation on this topic, I like to pull up some of those just to show students that, this can happen to anyone. So it's just that much more important. It's more just the little things for me. So when I see typos or grammatical issues in cover letters or resumes, I mean, that tells me that They didn't necessarily take the time to check on our company to know that writing and writing accurately is very important to the work that we do. It's really more of those little things that can have a big impact.
It's really interesting because, back in the day, I did a lot more work with social media in like the early days and infancy of this, and a lot of conversations back and forth on Twitter and Facebook and stuff like that. And got to a point where I started working myself into a role where we were hiring people, and there were people that I was connected to via social media that were students and stuff like that. And you could totally see the type of work they do, what they're involved in, who they are. And there were people I'd be like, man, if they put in a resume like right now, I would like almost hire them on the spot, knowing who they are. So it really is, a personal brand is very important at a young age. And I would often tell folks, particularly online, social media, all your accounts you have there, view that as like a real-time type of resume, because you never know what people are looking at. When you apply for things, people are going to check you out. What are some tips that you have then that would help people in developing their personal brand, particularly at a younger age?
Obviously, we have social media channels where you can be more protected, more private. So, Facebook, for example, you can set it so that only your friends are seeing your content. So you've got more control there versus LinkedIn is a very much more professional channel that we emphasize our brand on channels like that. So I think with social media channels, just knowing who you're connected with on there and just being aware of the content you're posting to each channel. Overall, I think, a lot of times with a personal brand, it's first establishing what you're good at and what you want to do, what you're passionate about. And from there, you can really grow and make the connections that you need to grow your brand and your career. Starting online is a great place to start, as much as we've seen those blunders online, right? I mean, it's also a great way for students and young professionals to showcase their abilities. When we have young professionals applying for positions with us, they will just send us a link to their online portfolios. So they've got their own websites where they're showcasing their work examples, things like that. So we can get a pretty good idea of who they are as a person without having to do too much work. And I think, just making sure you're associating with other strong brands. So if you are in the PR profession, being aware of who you're associated with online and in person too, right? I mean, we need to make good choices and have good friends in real life too, just knowing that very often are your personal and professional life totally separate, right? They integrate in a lot of different ways. And I think the last thing too, especially for us more seasoned professionals, just remain a student of the industry. For example, I have a couple of different e-newsletters. I can go back and read all of these e-newsletters and articles just so I'm staying up to date. So when I go to my client meetings, I can kind of chime in and have conversations about, oh, well, yes, this is happening in our country. This is what I think about it. So I want my brand to people that I know what's going on. I'm engaged in my community and my world and my career.
What else offline can people be doing to make sure they are portraying the correct personal brand that they want to?
How you're presenting yourself with your peers and potential clients or business associates. So taking advantage of those opportunities, being engaged and not just sitting in the corner, not having conversations with anyone. You're only there because your boss made you go. Taking advantage of opportunities like that, just in the way you communicate, remembering your simple manners, your pleases and thank yous and things like that. I mean, just very, very simple, minute things tie into your personal brand. And I think a lot of people just forget about that. And that's going to impact the way they view your personal brand.
Speaking of hiring, going into the workplace, it's a pretty competitive environment we're in. So what can people do related to their personal brand to help get that leg up?
Well, I think, if you're getting past the resume stage, which I think that's the biggest obstacle, right? You're able to set yourself apart on paper first, or that your potential employer is going to be looking for things about you, making sure you Google your name, keeping an eye out for maybe not so great things. It's hard to sometimes pick out a very genuine person when trying to maybe portray a personal brand that isn't very genuine to who they are.
Things have changed drastically with social media back when it first started to where it is now, depending upon the channel even. When Facebook first started out, it was only available to college students. And literally, I like to say it was all frat parties and fart jokes back in the day. And now it's all everybody's grandparents on there sharing fake news. Nowadays, what are the most important channels for aspiring public relation professionals, I guess, to be in? Where can they really formulate that brand versus having that time for more social fun stuff with people that they don't want others to see?
First and foremost, LinkedIn. You need to be engaging on there, sharing thought leadership content. Hiring managers are going to look at Facebook, Instagram, I'm sure TikTok. But I would also look and see where this potential employer is active on social media, because I'm guessing that they would probably check. And I don't think necessarily it's to find the bad stuff, quote unquote, but also, I mean, if you're applying for a job where you're going to be working heavily in social media, you're using those platforms.
Let's talk to Lydia. You are a younger folk compared to us. Where are you active? Where are you seeing people building personal brands? What do you recommend?
I think Emily's definitely right as far as networking and more professional connections goes. You're going to want to be on LinkedIn and not just having a LinkedIn account, but definitely, adding a lot to your profile, like pieces from your portfolio are great to have on there, but then also republishing other people's content, things that you're interested in. I think it says a lot about who you are as a person, the things that you're interested in. The hiring manager will be able to see that really easily on LinkedIn. If you are applying in some type of social media role, just having all of the big ones, Facebook, Instagram, even X or Twitter. You don't have to be necessarily the most involved on all of those, but I think just having them and making sure that your brand comes through in what you have posted, I think is really important. I don't think those need to be professional in any sense. I think those are more, if you're a big family person, like that can come through on your Instagram or your Facebook. Social media has been big for my life because I am younger and heard about it in high school. We would have people come in and talk to all of us about social media and just making sure that your social media is a clean, professional place, because colleges could have seen it. That's what they would tell us in high school. So I just think it's important to go through things that you might be tagged in. It's not always what you post. It could be something that someone else posted about you. And so you need to make sure that those things are also reflecting who you are as a person, because at the end of the day, that is what your personal brand is. I think that it's just important to do all those things and then just communicate kind of what sets you apart from other people, what values that you would offer to a team. I think that's one of the biggest things that I tried to reflect in my social media when I was on the job search. So I think those are just some important things to think about.
Those are great points. I remember in my younger days, I would get a notification that said, "You've been tagged in a photo." I'm like, uh-oh, it's Monday. This past weekend. I better go and check and see what was on there. And I would rapidly remove some things on occasion if I needed to. But you bring up a great point there about what you can't control what others are posting about you. But a lot of times you can control the visibility of that, which is great. Is it good practice or not to have two separate accounts, one where you're Mr. Professional and one where you're not? Is there any value in keeping that separate, or should you really maintain like that authentic who you are in a single account on all these different platforms?
Personally, I've always just done one account, but I think a lot of people have the ability to monitor two accounts, like go for it. My only concern with that is, like we were talking about with people tagging you, like they might not know, and then they could tag your main account instead of your backup account. So I think it's just something that you'd have to be really careful about. That can be kind of tricky, but I think if you monitor it closely, you can do it that way. I know a lot of people too that when they were in like middle school, started a social media account and then were locked out of it and had to start a new one, but that other account that they can't get into or delete is now out there forever. If there is a chance that you could get locked out of it and not able to get back in, is that something you'd want to be out there forever? Because I know a lot of people that have that second account from when they were in 7th grade and really, really wish that they could delete it. But I think as far as like the bigger, like Facebook, LinkedIn, you're just going to want to have one account on those.
Back in the day, I was highly involved with the social media world. Big thing I always told folks was provide value. The biggest thing for me was finding those communities to be involved in and then provide value to that. So if somebody's asking something, where can you contribute to that conversation? Where can you be visible? So can you talk a little bit about how you utilize social, not just posting things, but ways that you can engage and interact as well to be more visible?
Emily can maybe touch on this too, but I think a lot of people now have like groups on Facebook where you can join, and I think those are great networking opportunities. When I was looking for a job my senior year, I was in a sorority, and my sorority has a networking group on Facebook that you can join, hear about job opportunities in every state in the United States. So I think those are really good opportunities that people can utilize. That one's more specific to Facebook, but sharing your own posts on any type of social media platform, like if you were looking for this type of opportunity, you post it and people can share it, and that's a really great way to get connected with people too.
Did you have any personal branding courses in college at all? Is that a thing? Does that exist out there?
Personal branding was tied into a lot of my classes, but not necessarily a specific class. I know a few of the design classes that I took, they worked on, creating your own website to have your own portfolio. We talked a lot about personal branding and how that should reflect that. But not necessarily a specific class. I honestly wish there was a specific class, like maybe towards the end of your college career. I think that would have been great my senior year, just to kind of help me make all of my platforms and everything about me look consistent while I'm on the job hunt. I think that would have been a really helpful class, but I didn't have one. So
let's talk a little bit about your internship experience. Your experience to date, how does that influence your personal branding?
Internships are so important when you're not exactly sure where you want to end up. I think I knew that I enjoyed PR, I enjoyed social media and writing, but I wasn't exactly sure what that meant as far as for my career. I know a lot of people have done internships and they'll intern like maybe multiple summers for the same place, but I knew I wanted to try and do a couple semesters with different places to kind of figure out what exactly I wanted to do, since I wasn't sure. And I think as soon as I worked for an agency, I knew that was the route I wanted to take. Like, it really just helped me like hone my skills in PR. I think when you're an intern and you go in, you're probably a bit nervous and maybe not sure if you're even qualified to do it. But I think through my internship at Shiftology especially, I felt like I actually worked in PR even though I was just an intern. And I think I just really was able to expand my professional connections that way too, especially here in the area I was planning on moving back to, which was super helpful too.
Lydia, do you have any other final thoughts when it comes to personal branding that folks should be aware of that you'd like to pass along?
I think it's just something you always need to be careful about, and especially for everyone today. I mean, kids are getting on social media younger and younger.
Yeah, that makes me think like there's parents out there creating social media accounts for their children and posting things out there. I mean, there's this thing now I see where teenage girls now are just like, when people are taking photos, they'll put their hands up in front of it to keep their face blocked out because they don't want it to be on social media. Have you guys seen that? I mean, kids that are like preteen are starting to think about this personal branding stuff way, way early. It's wild, but I guess that's the environment we're in now. So it's something we all have to think about and be careful of. And I feel like everybody has a social media skeleton out there. The key is keeping it locked in the closet or bulldozing the closet altogether if you can manage that. As we wrap up, Emily, Lydia, how can people find your personal brand and what you're all about online?
Yeah, so you can find all of our more professional stuff through the Shiftology website, or you can find our personal accounts on Facebook and Instagram.
Again, we thank you both for joining us for this episode of Shooting the Shift. We look forward to connecting with you again on another topic in the future. Well, that's a wrap for this episode of Shooting the Shift. If you want to get a taste of Emily's or Lydia's personal brand, or anybody on our team for that matter, check us out at shift-ology.com, where you can also get in touch with us for a free 30-minute discovery meeting to learn more about the services we offer. For the entire gang here at Shiftology, I'm Dan Toland saying thanks again for tuning in, and we'll see you on a future episode of Shooting the Shift.